1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
So you're here, right?
Yeah, okay, cool.
It's like a distant.
It's very, I don't know, I mean, it's, well, if I'm here, but you hear it in the monitor, you don't hear it in the headphones, or do you have headphones on you? In the Wirecast?
Yeah.
Alright. Okay.
4 different varieties of pizza.
Well, now we'll just have to, I would rather have this than this, just because an awkwardness of holding a microphone that doesn't serve the purpose, you know? Right. So, we're pulling a plug on this one, at least for now. We're going to use this microphone over here, just because of the awkwardness of holding a microphone that doesn't serve a purpose, you know?
It does have a purpose. It goes through a license.
I know, but you know, people over here don't like.
Just tell them, hey, you don't want to just tell them, hey, you don't want to You can hear it up here, but then it's going through the live stream, so they'll be hearing you in the network.
Okay. All right.
So yeah, so you got to say.
Okay, cool. Let's see how that works. So, let's try this one. Hey guys. So, for the clarification of the use of the microphone, even though we don't we don't hear anything over here right now, we're using it for the live stream that we are sending to Facebook and to our website as well, right? Yeah. So for anybody who can't attend, they can attend virtually. So as we said, this is Stories and Pizza. So the pizza is right over there, and you guys are more than welcome to take the time and go walk over there, and Dominic is going to introduce you to our beautiful pizzas. And then you can help yourself. And there are plates over there, and just grab them. I don't think we have napkins. That's the only downside. So who gets messy? I guess. Yeah. Hopefully, if you have a colorful shirt, you're lucky. So, and as we said, this is like the time for pizza and stories and pizza. So we can eat some pizza and we can share some stories. And if anybody joins from the neighborhood, nice. We're going to introduce ourselves, welcome them also to help themselves and share some pizzas. If not, we're going to have some good time of sharing and just community. And we'll see how it goes. This COVID scare kind of is real, you know. We had to close the church this morning because of that. We had like a half a dozen of people who tested positive, and another half a dozen with symptoms who are waiting for their results back. Yeah. So from that stance, yeah, we have to take it seriously, and hence the masks. This neighborhood over here is also taking it pretty seriously. You guys saw the signs that the Posner Center put. They were like, I was asking them about that this week because they upped their requirements for the masks this week, and I told them, you know what, we're gonna have pizza. We already planned that for a while and promoted it, and they're like, okay, cool, you know, that's fine. You guys should be okay with your event, but just kind of to plan our future events in the wake of everything that's happening and these new requirements that at least they're trying to ask for whoever is using the property. So let's do this. Let's have a prayer. Let's go get some pizza. And then whoever has a testimony they would like to share, you guys are more than welcome to grab the mic, come over here so camera can see you, and share. And I believe all of us are going to have a blessing out of that. Dear Lord, right now we are here to give you the glory and receive a blessing of community and stories of what you've done in our lives. So help us enjoy, help us have fun, help us enjoy that pizza, and bless Dominic for what he's doing for our ministry and for our church with his gifts. And may this be a good time to your glory. Amen. All right, so help yourselves with pizza and then we're going to talk.
Good. Grandma, you're not gonna choose? You're gonna let Kate choose for you? But this is specially made by by the real Italiano. He was wow, it's good.
Kim, how are you? I hear you're working. Just trying to take care of your health. It's your mom.
The way it goes in the hospital, 12-hour days, 12-hour nights.
I'm glad you're taking it easy.
Only doing that once a week. I take it half. And then I sleep for a few hours when I get home, then I get up and have the rest of the day. It's not demand anything unless I'm not.
But the times that you were teaching, 2 days, that whole week I'm working. No. Okay.
And I'm working a rare night. My body works night shift. And then I found myself wanting to sleep.
Are you picking up how many boys?
Because I did that for years. 20 years.
This is good. This is good.
What? Yeah.
We'll get some pizza.
I don't think people were open.
This is really good.
It's gonna get way better.
Like the sauce.
I have an interface at home, a stereo interface that I can
Yeah, we can walk down 60th Street Mall without a leash and stuff, so.
We used to use before the switcher. It was over there in the office. That one is over there in the store. I don't know if that might be something that we
That's just part of it, is we have to return the infection, these are too big.
I just remember that.
Why aren't you moving? Good boy. Right now. Well, dude, really, come on.
This one. But I forgot what that's called. Yeah, that's the way it is. I don't like that. Not much. It's the one thing that was like this.
You need an absence. This is a poison, everybody.
We got one? You guys need some?
I think we're good.
All right.
She always has her, that's how it's supposed to go. That's the best thing to have in your car. Always comes in handy.
You don't want any pizza at all? How's Frank doing?
We said, you stay home.
And he said, okay?
The only reason why he was coming was because he didn't trust Dana and I driving alone. He said, that's a dangerous place you drive. And we said, as though you can help us. You know, but one time we were walking in a real scary area. He was walking behind us instead of protecting us. So we said, no, you stay home. He wasn't planning to come, but when he just saw two ladies, he thought, oh, no, can't go alone.
So he thinks of this area to be like a dangerous, like 5
Well,
points.
he doesn't know where, he just knew it was in Denver.
Okay.
He doesn't.
This used to be.
Oh yeah. 10 years ago.
It's really, it genuine. We see that, we're glad these, we got these in really nice places.
I didn't realize it was cold. Oh, he's here. And I'll take it and pull it out.
We, yeah.
Renovated a lot of places.
We had one young family who used to attend Arvada, then they moved. And they grew up. Actually, the husband grew up in 5 Points. And then they moved to like California, and then they came back. And he says, I remember like if you're going for a walk and you stop, you get mugged. And that's it's enough for you just to stop. Yeah, and he says like when he came back, like he couldn't recognize the place. Yeah. Let's get one more.
Cheese. This is just that. This is just that.
I can get one more.
So, anyone here to share their testimony, blessing, a positive experience, or everybody still munching? Still okay.
No, he's putting it in the oven.
We can talk about this part too. We're in.
Like homemade fresh positive experience.
This is the same, but I have different ones at 11. They're gonna be at.
We had a homeless person come to church this morning.
That was my church, wasn't it?
Some lady that was living in the car.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah, yeah.
She came to church on one day, that it wasn't, that there was no church. Thank God she showed up.
She said, she came in crying, she said she was on the corner with a sign and somebody threw a, coke at her and yelled at her to go get a job.
If anybody's ready for seconds, I have 2 fresh ones that just came out of the oven right heated.
Oh, okay.
She has a 9-year-old kid that living in a car.
That's scary.
She was not go there this day, still. She said the child was in the car. That's what
The
it is.
Dana, the vegan one is out there. Okay.
Then, but he was acting real weird.
So I'm gonna try. This is the Dana? The vegan. Oh, okay. You're eating that? Yeah.
Cheese just came out of the oven, vegan just came out of the oven right here. This is Jack's special. That is
It's good, the vegan.
How do you guys like the pizza?
They're delicious. Delicious.
I really like the vegan one.
So was the sauce of the other ones the same?
Oh, there is a soda machine over there.
I think next time we should take the party outside.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like have like a
Get like a canopy.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Ready with flags, storytelling.
Next to think of colors.
Oh, is that the cheese one?
How's Jackie?
Something she was doing with her daughter.
She's been here
If I didn't find those napkins, it would be very miserable.
Is this the first time you've been here, Harriet?
It is, you two had
These pizzas are not meant to be courteous.
We're not from Domino's.
Huh?
We're not from Domino's.
Yeah, that's not Domino's, like one bit. That box wouldn't trick anybody.
Yeah.
She's seen this with Domino's.
Yeah, no, I know you got it. I can't think of it.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I
I know.
was kidding.
Well, this is not really a worship service. This is like a social gathering. That's why I was doing it. Oh,
I'm gonna leave the oven on if anybody wants to heat up
are
any
you
more,
bothered by
but,
that?
so one, just heat up whatever you want.
So far, nobody seems to like that. Okay, I guess we can fast forward that one. Too bad, this is a good one. Anybody getting any closer? In this car, when you have a good pizza and you have seconds, it gets really hard to.
Thank you.
Hey, he still has flour all over himself. So, how many of you know my story of being kicked out of the USA? Okay, sorta. Okay. So, okay, I'll just start with that. I'll make it brief as half of you are familiar with it. So, all happy and excited about life here. We come to United States, and how we came to United States, that's another story that you probably already heard as well. But Lord really had a lot of things that He penned in our direction, just to make it very peculiar and very special. So this is what happens. 5 years spent in the United States. Actually, 4.5 years spent in the United States. We only needed one more visa extension of the religious visa that I had when I started working in Nevada to apply for our green cards. So everything goes well until we get an extension from the immigration. And they're like, we are still thinking about your case. And anytime pretty much you get that letter, they would extend it for another 90 days, and then we are still legal. We are still fine. We are okay. We can get our driver's license and everything. And then the next paper is not coming. 90 days are about to expire, and we are not getting the paper. So you try calling them. You know how it is when you call a government institution. Like, your call is very important to us, and then 2.5 hours later, it's kind of like... So we don't get the next letter. I finally get an email from them saying that the case is still in process. And I asked them, okay, how am I supposed to extend my driver's license? You know, at this point, it's going to expire in a few days. And what? And they're like, well, the case is still in process. That's all we can tell you. So our driver's license expired. We can't drive anymore. So it takes about, at the time, that was 2009, it took maybe like 10 to 15 minutes the most to get from home to church. Now it takes 20, if you're lucky. But then it was kind of like that. Huh? Oh, because I'm older and I drive slower. I guess that's that makes sense as well. I can't beat that logic. But so we get bicycles, figuring we're gonna just catch a bus, you know, and we're gonna take a bus to church and it should be fine. So suddenly a 15-minute drive turns into an hour-and-a-half expedition. You know, kind of like hop on your bicycle, go to the bus, catch a bus, get off the bus, blah, 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 blah. Like that whole, I mean, it's really not that much of a big deal. It's just a whole another experience of life. But it made our lives more complicated just because we had to plan our days differently. We had to plan around this ride rather than the ride being planned around the things that we needed to do at the church. And life became like, come on, okay. And then you have a problem with, I mean, once your ID expires, you know how it goes. You have a problem in the bank, you have a problem in wherever they would ask for your ID and everything. So we get all of our cash out of the bank, so we have it available so they don't bug us about that. So you have to deal with cash then. You have to carry cash around. And it's like another kind of a stress. Like stress piling one after another. In this whole process of, Lord, help us get our life back on track. Help us get our future. That was like 2009. So we were in our early 30s at the time already. It wasn't anymore 20s. It was 30s already. And then the next thing that Lord does for my birthday, so April 1st, that's my birthday. April 1st, 2009, so this is the best April Fools, seriously. April 1st, 2009, finally I get a letter from immigration. Like, perfect timing, awesome. So I opened the letter, and it's a notice that we have 30 days to leave the country. Like, you gotta be, no. I was like drowning deeper and deeper, and like, Lord, what are you doing? Lord, what are you doing? And then now suddenly, this is it. Literally, you have a month to pick up your stuff and leave the country. And we had an attorney that was working on our papers, the attorney that the conference got for us to help us get the green cards and everything else. And she told us, you know what, guys, like, this is really beyond us, beyond anybody. They simply made that decision. And right now, if you guys want to stay illegally, you're going to ruin everything. You're losing your 5 years of life. You're losing any opportunity to ever do anything here in the United States, or it's going to be incredibly hard for you to establish yourselves here. Your best bet is to go back and to apply for another visa. And from all of you guys who have any kind of a touch with the third world, you know that that is impossible. Like, that doesn't happen. Once you leave and go back, you're going back to nothing. Like, over there, when we moved to States, when we were invited originally by the church to come to the States, I had a job over there. I was established over there as a pastor. Excuse me, it was very different. But now I'm going back like nobody. I'm going back there with nothing, absolutely nothing. And I'm constantly beating my head against the wall in the church, like, Lord, you got to save us out of this. Like, Lord, this is going to ruin our lives. Like, this is everything. Why did we spend 5 years for you here at the church doing all of this, for you to ditch us back to Serbia? And at that time, Serbia was still not a great place. It's not now, but then it was even less. It was even more hopelessness there. So days are passing by, nothing is happening, and I'm sinking deeper. I'm like, I don't care, whatever. Like, at this point, you know, we're going back. We decided to listen to the attorney's advice and just do everything legally, stick to the rules. And I'm like, we have nowhere to go. Like, what? We're going over there. We have no perspective. We have no way to come back. At the time, my boss from the conference, he says, I'm going to write you a letter. You know, we want you back. We want you to come back and work here. I'm going to make sure that the immigration knows that we want to hire you here as a pastor. But that's a piece of paper that doesn't mean much when you go back to Belgrade, into that embassy with those agents who listen to all kinds of fairy tale stories every single day from people trying to leave the country. So we're on our flight back. That was April 29. Literally, we kind of squeezed every single last day out of our legal status in the United States. We fly over there, and as soon as we land, first thing we did was just kind of contact the embassy and schedule an appointment, which was 3 weeks from that time. So we have 3 weeks to be reminded of why we wanted to leave. The Serbia, compared to United States, is it's a third world country. And when you get used to a good life here, over there, over there, you notice all of the things that are down, all of the things that are bad. And you see the ruined infrastructure, you see the trash on the streets. Guys, help yourself with some pizza. You see all of the menace of the surroundings, of minds of people that you don't fit in with. And it was just like, Lord, I mean, he left us. I don't know. He doesn't care. Is there God? I don't know. But this made no sense whatsoever. I was really kind of lost at the time. And I was lucky that Jasmina was like, no, God has a plan. We're going to figure this out. He's going to figure this out. If I didn't have her, now looking back, if I didn't have her, I don't know how things would end up. But to cut my story short, to the embassy day. So we go over there, and I had about 600 pages of paperwork. It was heavy. And that was all possible documentation to prove that they should let me go back, that they should both of us come back here. And then there is a line over there that starts forming around 5 a.m. They open the embassy at 8. Around 5 is when the line starts forming. We were there around like 6:30 or so, and there was already probably like 20 people ahead of us. And everybody has their stack of paper. And everybody is dressed nicely. And everybody is a clean cut. And you look at, these are the perfect candidates. You look at these people. So, and they would let us in, 10 or 15 people at once. They let in, and then they sit in there, and then they turn their paperwork in. So in the second round, we come in, and we were kind of like the second or the third in the line to get to the counter. And there was like 3 or 4 counters over there, and pretty much you go randomly. When one counter is available, they just call your number, and you go to that counter. And I get called, and I walk over there with that stack of paper, and there's a guy sitting behind that. He looks at me, he looks at the invitation paper. He's like, okay, I kind of hand him through that counter the papers, and he literally, this is what he does. He looks at the paper, he looks at the first, second page. He's asking me like, why do these days don't match? Something with the paper from the conference office and from the Arvada church, whatever it was. Now, I really have no idea. It's like my bosses were filling that out. I can kind of get more info on that if you guys need it. Now, when you come to the counter, they grill you for about half an hour. They go through every single stack, everything that you have. And after that half an hour, you might or might not get visa. Usually about 10 to 15% of people who show up get visas. So he looks at that paper and those 2 papers, and I said, oh, okay. He writes something on his paper, and he pushes back all of that paperwork to me. And that, dang it, that's it. It's like, okay, I guess we'll have to figure something else out. I guess the Lord really didn't do anything. And the guy tells me, okay, Mr. Tomic, thank you for your time. Come tomorrow to pick up your visas. And I can't describe you. It was like a shock wave when it hits you. Well, and he's like, okay, thank you. And he's already picking up the next paperwork that he has over there to call the next person. And I kind of turn around, and I'm in shock. And I'm walking away, and one guy next to me, he's like, sorry, man, next time. I'm like, no, they let me in. They're letting me in. And I'm like, what? So this is what's happening in the meantime behind the scenes. The attorney that worked on our case, they are not allowed to contact the embassies. It's a conflict of interest. They're not allowed. They're only they send the documentation by request. They don't send any kind of documentation in advance. And the lady that worked with us, she said night before, and she didn't tell. She told us this when we went back to the States. She says that night before your appointment, and she didn't even know it was the with the day difference and everything. It was late at night here. It was early in the morning over there. So she called the embassy, just the number of the embassy. She says, I just wanted to let them know that my client is coming. I didn't want to do anything out of the ordinary. I wanted to just do what wouldn't be a conflict of interest, informing them that my client is coming over there, and if he doesn't explain anything, to contact me directly. And she says somebody picked up, and she left. She told him what he, and he's like, okay, thank you, and that's pretty much it. She wrote down the name of the person that she talked to. It turns out that that the guy who was at the counter was the one who picked up the phone. I mean, there was a bunch of them over there in Dallas. I don't know how many workers are there, but for sure there was like at least 5 or 6 of them working on those counters over there. He picked up the phone. He heard that from her, and he was like, and apparently he was fine with what. That was enough for him to give us visas. So I come back tomorrow. We got our Serbian passports with American visas, and we are immediately planning a flight back in like as soon as we can. We were back on June 1st. But but this is the thing. When I tell that story over here, people are like, just kind of like you guys react, like, wow, that's amazing. When I tell this story over there in Serbia, they're like, ah, you're full of it. Shut up. Like it doesn't. Yeah, you're making stuff up. It doesn't happen that way. People just don't believe it because it really doesn't happen that way. Anyways, you know when you bow your heads to pray? Well, after that, I would bow my head to pray out of sheer embarrassment. Like, there was no humbleness, there was no anything. It was just like, I'm sorry. Yeah. One thing that I learned from that experience, learned very well, is that we make our plans, but Lord establishes our steps. And I needed to learn that lesson then in 2009, to trust God with His plans coming through the way He sees them fit. Because the following decade that I spent here in Nevada was all about that. It was all about, I have my plans, but may your will be done. And that was my amazing experience that I still cherish and share to this day with people, as I find it a blessing. I hope it's a blessing with this pizza as well for you guys. Okay, who's next? Here's the mic. Oh, and there's one at the table as well. I'm gonna get some reward pizza now. You guys are making this awkwardly silent. Oh, Dorsey, please.
Alrighty. Well, good evening, everyone. You don't know me, but I go to the 8:45 service. And I've been in Arvada, I think, since April of this year from another church. Well, my story about my encounters with God, I'm not a bad driver, but from 1993 to 2009, I have been hit 4 times. And everyone, when I got hit, no, in my car, not, yeah, in my car, yes, and while I was driving. And everybody was so busy. They were in a rush. They couldn't find anything. So, hey, I guess myself and the way I looked, I got hit. The first one was a young kid who was a delivery driver. He's been driving around for 30 minutes. He ran the stop sign. And so everybody was giving me, what is it, Swinston Chiropractic cards for I could sue. I had to go to get all the, the physical therapy for I can get money. And, they would always get 40%. But now it's, what is it, Azar? Frank Azar, yes. Yes. And then the second one was a young kid just decided I was going right, going straight. He just came and hit me because he was in a rush. And so I get out of the car. He gets out of the car. So I walk to him, and he gets in the car, and he drives away. And I said, no, he didn't. So I got in my car, and we're driving around Colfax, speeding around Colfax and everything. And then he gets into a parking lot. There was no way out. So I took my car and put it where he couldn't get out. So I get out of the car, me being mad, and the Holy Spirit said, you better get your butt back in the car. He may have a knife or a gun, and you already got his license plates. The third one was we were driving. The light had turned red, and the car behind me thought I was going to go on the red light, but I didn't, so he hit me. And then the fourth one was a driver 60 miles when the traffic was backed up. And the Holy Spirit said, Lonnie, just brace yourself because you're going to get hit. And I braced myself. The trunk of the car went into the back seat. But I know each time when I got hit, I could feel the angel's hands bracing me that I didn't hit the steering wheel or anything. So I praise God. Of the 4 incidents, I'm doing okay. Everybody says, you would have been a whole lot of money with Frank Azar. And I said, no, that's okay. I got God. And to this day, they said, you're going to have back trouble. But to this day, nothing. God has blessed me, and I'm still healthy, walking around and praising God for everything. So he's always there when you want him and when you are in need. Okay, there it is. Sorry, guys.
See, there you go. That's God.
Protecting the microphone.
Instead of the microphone hitting the ground,
Yes.
it went on the chair.
God is good.
It spared me a heart attack.
Yeah, did you guys see Wilson when the microphone hit the chair? He just got it's like grabbed the heart. Yeah.
So I'll take the chair over the concrete any day.
Well, I have one. I don't know if you put that
Yeah, we got.
Where?
This little button.
Oh.
We will let you be on that.
Well, I know God is everywhere. He shows himself everywhere. And this past 2 years, he's done a very good job of showing himself and me walking to his path. And if it wasn't for my husband, who's sitting right here next to me, Gary, I know, now I feel comfortable saying that I know God, that I'm his child. And he's always there, has so many stories. But one that just recently happened is that we were watching a DVD, a movie on the sofa, and we were too lazy. So we dimmed the lights, and every time there was a pause or it's like a little skit, we're like, oh, it's just a DVD, it's an old red box DVD. So we ignored it a few times. And again, we're stubborn. We don't want to get up. You go, no, I go, and you go, and we just go back and forth. So finally it stopped. And then we're like, no, it's going to come back. And then we're like waiting a minute or two. And that night was raining like really, really hard. And I stood up and I'm like, well, let's just, look at it and rewind the movie so we can watch that part again. Well, we got up and we noticed there was a full puddle of water coming from the door, from the entry all the way to the living room. And the water was right by the cords. So we were on the couch, so our feet were not touching the floor, and the dog usually he goes underneath the sofa, but it wasn't that close, and luckily, God said, you need to do it. So we both were shocked that we were gonna get hurt if one of us didn't get up. So he was there, he saved us. Luckily, we were able to get the water out. We noticed that there was a drain that wasn't fully draining correctly from the entry, so it just flooded. And we were right by the door, so the electricity, if we would have touched that water, we would have been electrocuted. Yeah. But yeah, that's all for now.
Come on, whoever ate pizza, you have to share that. Pizza costs.
Well, I know that some of you know the story of my cancer scare this last year and this year, but a lot of you don't. And it started in January of 19. COVID hit and the lockdown and all of that. I went for a regular physical, and my doctor said, "Oh, your calcium level is high, your blood calcium level." So we waited a couple months and checked it again, and it was still high. And then she said, "Well, I want you to see an endocrinologist." Well, then it was COVID by then, and it was impossible to get in to see anybody. And I don't do virtual stuff. I'm going to see a doctor, and especially if I'm going to pay that, I want to be in the same room with them. And so 4 months later, I finally got in to see the endocrinologist, and she ordered a bunch of tests. And one of them was an ultrasound of my abdomen, and they found 4 tumors in my lower abdomen. And they were wrapped around my ovaries, and she prepared me for the idea that I would have ovarian cancer. And so I had that surgery, and I did not have ovarian cancer. Yeah, so, but then the problem was with my parathyroid, which is behind the regular thyroid. And so they wanted to do an ultrasound of that. And I was, and they called me at work and said, "Well, you do have cancer. It's in your thyroid." And you could have just knocked me over with a feather. And I turned to my current boss and said, "Yeah, I'm going home." And we'll talk later. And so I went and had the surgery done after some other tests and other complications and whatnot. So by now it had been like a year and a half since the problem had first started. And I was, that's a lot of time when you're talking about cancer. And nobody really said anything to me afterwards. I was in the recovery room for 5 or 6 hours, and they didn't say anything, but the nurse left my chart laying on my bed. And somebody suggested to me that maybe she did that on purpose, because I'm also a nurse, so of course I picked it up and read it. And it said that it was stage 4 cancer, that it had spread to my lymphatic system. And Fortunately, I couldn't stay awake very long because of all the drugs to think about that. So that delayed things a little bit too. But they sent me home for 8 weeks and said, we'll decide in 8 weeks what we're going to do. Well, that might as well have been 8 years. That was so long. And, you know, because I wanted to do it 8 minutes ago in 8 weeks. And started praying about it. And I prayed for information for teachers to come, for guidance. And it came just as surely as the sun comes up in the morning. And the information was about fasting and praying, and so I did. I fasted for 44 days. And I drank juices that I made myself, and I ate avocado and mushrooms. Avocado because it took care of the hunger, and mushrooms because I wanted something to chew. And that was very satisfying. And so I went back after the 8 weeks with all my test results. And the endocrinologist said, I can't find any cancer. And she said, get out of my office. And I'm going to see her again. I haven't seen her since. I'm going to see her again the 8th of September. And but I don't think there's anything there. I just don't think that there is. But we'll find out. And I'm not scared this time. Not scared like it was before.
What did she say when she saw the second batch of results? Like, did she was just like, yeah, awesome, perfect, or like this is faulty, or what? Or I mean, what was her reaction to it?
She was pretty stunned. I wasn't surprised. I pretty much knew what it was going to be. And she said, I can't find any cancer. And she had all this patient information for me, brochures and stuff about chemo and radiation and all of this that they were planning to do to me. And and she was joking, but, you know, she made it sound like, you know, and she said, get out of my office. You know, and so I was happy to disappoint her.
Well, thank you, Sherry. Okay, we have another 10 minutes. 5 to 10 minutes. And after that, we're gonna wrap it up, clean it up, and head out. So. Yeah, he probably has stories to tell that shouldn't be told.
She's got good stories. So, I don't come from a church background. I'm aware of, and I've read about Catholicism, Christianity. I read the Bible, lots of different books. And really, God is just always there no matter what religion that I found. I've learned that through my own experiences that he loves us enough to give us anything that we really, truly want. No matter consequence, no consequence. and he's always right there. So a while back, I had a girlfriend, and we had a daughter, or we still have a daughter, and I ended up getting a 8-year sentence in DOC for cultivation of marijuana. Well, one of the hard things about going to prison was, and forgive me, I don't tell stories very often, so I might ramble a little bit, but is watching what you do to the people that are still existing outside of prison. So knowing that I wasn't with my daughter, seeing the stuff that I left behind on the computer for, that girl to find or whatever, and I had learned that I need to be a better person. Somehow I needed to not hurt the people that I love, and I started just reading the rules of the Catholic Church, reading the 7 Habits, reading Viktor Frankl's books, and just trying to surround myself with the best people that I could in that scenario. So if I always had a book and a Bible in my bed, I know that I'm enriching myself better than I would be outside of here, so I can't feel as guilty. So, people out here, they're just, people are people. So when I called one night early on, like 2 weeks, about to go to prison, you go through the jail process, I guess, and that takes about a month or two, and then you go through the 2 to 4 to 6 week intake process. So I was about 2 weeks into my intake process, and I call my girlfriend, I thought's phone, to see how she's doing, and some guy had said, stay out of our lives, bitch. I was like, okay, hung up the phone. So I was like, Well, you rationalize, you think about it, and you're like, well, that person obviously has no idea really what's going on. So that's that. So I don't know, about a year, 8 months into this sentence that I'm doing, I'm still reading, and I'm trusting and learning God and learning about selflessness and the things that will keep me safe while I'm out here from A, going back, and B, hurting the people in my life that I love, like my children, my wife, because I have a tendency to do that. I think we all do, but especially for somebody like me, like the Jesus principles, following that path, it keeps people around me safe too. So I always wanted a family growing up, so I was like, well, this is my girlfriend and that's my daughter. So our anniversary, and God speaks to me a lot. Like when you're going through hard times and you're going without, you're never without, you're never alone, and I've walked with him a lot. He's always been there throughout my whole life. So the way I wanted to communicate, or the way I asked him to communicate with me when I asked a question, was I used our anniversary. So it was 12/24. So I opened the Bible and I go to like a page, and I ask God, it's okay if I want a family, I can kill this man, right? It's for a family. It's a good cause. I can kill him. So I go to 24:12. It was Romans or 12:24. I'm not sure, but that was our anniversary. And he says, you shall not go up against your brethren. Let every man go home to his bed, for this is from me. And he's like, you can have whatever you want. A house made out of gold, bronze, silver. Just do the work of the Lord. You can have the house. I'm right there. So that was a big fat no. All right. So all right, there you go. There it is, right? So you said no. So I can't ignore you, because a part of this for me in my early stages is being obedient. So I know that I don't know better, but I know that you do. So I believe in you, have faith in you. I see you, I hear you. No matter what, you're right here with me, no matter what I've done. So God is, and this is a story from me to you guys, saying that he's always there. So you'll never be hungry, and if you are, it's temporary. You're never going to run out of oxygen. You're never really going to be without the things that really matter, which is, to me, the people and God. So no matter what, you have everything that you really need at that time. So this is a story of having faith, walking with God, God interacting with you on a day-to-day basis. So he also has a sense of humor. So when I was released, right, he has a sense of humor. He's like, okay, and this is how I know he'll give you what you want, and he'll let you hang yourself if you wanted to, truly. That's where the obedience and the trust comes in. So obviously, I've been there for a year or two, or however long it was, and I'd known a couple people that were still in prison. So one of the things that I wanted to do when I got out was send pictures of their kids, do things that they couldn't do for themselves. So one of the ones was in a certain facility, and then all of a sudden, I was seeing my ex. I still wanted my family. I was on that mindset. I thought this was going to be my family and whatever. So I'm talking to her, and I see a letter on the seat, and it has this guy's name, and I'm like, and he's in a prison facility, and I'm like, okay, well, turns out that guy was in the same facility as somebody I'd sat by for the last like 2 to 3 years. And so he's like, oh, that guy's here. And he's like, well, what do you want me to do with him? And right then, that's your sense of humor, right? That's God's sense of humor. So I kind of got teary in my eye, and I was just leave it alone. You know what I mean? That was God saying, do you really want that? Because here it is, you're like laughing at me, you know, knowing that we have a relationship, knowing that he's proven himself to be there, and I understand and hear him. But he'll give you anything that you want, and he has a sense of humor, and he doesn't stop paying attention to you no matter what's going on in your life. He's always there. So and that's one of my many stories, but thanks for listening.
It's always awesome listening to these stories. Life gets busy and life gets very real, and that realism of life starts you looking the things in realistic way, and then suddenly this world becomes more real than the world expanded with the presence of God. And then listen to these stories kind of brings it all back. That his reality is bigger than our reality. And as long as we are part of his reality, this reality here will never be scary. It will be funny, So, thank you for sharing. Thank you for coming tonight. Dom, thanks for the pizza. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Guys, thanks for the live stream. Live streamers, thank you for watching. Let's close our meeting with a prayer and then take a few minutes to clean stuff up, pack everything back, and head home to get some rest. Thank you, Lord, for kindly reminding us that you are right here. And thank you for these stories. Tonight I ask you only one thing. Give us more stories. Help us reconnect to you. And may these stories become our daily life, where every single day we can share a story of how you were here. May that be part of tomorrow. May that be part of next week. May presence with you be everything we need in our future. Amen. All right. Thank you. If you guys, whoever needs to leave, if you guys are in a rush, go ahead. If you guys have some time, let's get our stuff cleaned up and ready to head out.